All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we are going to talk about Terence Crawford being in a situation where he may get his mandatory called on him by Josh Taylor and Bob Arum. Let's talk about that, which will happen if they do not come up with an agreement with the ERROL Spence Jr. fight pretty soon. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to be in the 140 and 147 pound division. Word on the street is that Terence Crawford, if he is not able to come to a negotiated fight with ERROL Spence Jr., will be forced to fight Josh Taylor for his title in the early part of 2023, provided that Josh Taylor gets past his rematch with Jack Cottrell. Josh Taylor has dropped every belt that he's had except for the WBO, and my understanding is that that is for a reason. Now, before I get into that though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, thank you so much for checking the video out. Please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. Your support would be greatly appreciated. If you are a longtime subscriber and a supporter, thank you for your continued support. Really does mean a lot. So let's get into this. ERROL Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford are in a marathon negotiation for the WBO for the undisputed title at 147 pounds. By all intents and purposes, or all appearances, by all appearances, it doesn't look like they are going to wrap that up before the end of the year. And from what I am hearing, that means that Terence Crawford's mandatory will be coming due after November, because if you recall, his last fight that he had was the WBO mandatory with Sean Porter, and that was in November of 2021. Josh Taylor will be his next mandatory, but not in the sense that you have your traditional mandatory where you have a guy's number one or number two, but the mandatory, because Josh Taylor, who was undisputed, not similar to exactly the same way that Terence Crawford was undisputed at 140 pounds. Josh Taylor was undisputed at 140 pounds. He has one more fight at 140 pounds against Jack Cottrell. And then after that, he is provided he beats Jack Cottrell, which I think that he will do. He will be going up to 147 pounds as the WBO Super Champion, which means that he will be able to fight for that WBO championship in his very first fight in the division. So that would mean that Terence Crawford, if he wants to keep the WBO belt, will have to fight Terence Crawford. We'll have to fight Josh Taylor for that belt. Now, there's other reasons that people are saying that there's a likelihood that this could take place. One is that we know that, well, we don't know, but it's seemingly, Terence Crawford, who has filed a lawsuit against Bob Arum. It is not evident yet that he has refiled that lawsuit against Bob Arum. So if that is the case, they are no longer in any type of issue as far as their legal battle, and that would allow for Bob Arum to get what Bob Arum had already wanted with Terence Crawford before, which was a fight between he and Josh Taylor when Josh Taylor moved up to 147 pounds. So it looks like that is going to be the case with where that could get called due. And again, this is not a scenario where, it's a normal mandatory. It literally is something where Terence Crawford is going to have to fight the WBO super champion below him, or he's going to have to vacate. Same situation that you have at 135 pounds and 130 pounds with Shakur Stevenson, who the WBO named their super champion and can immediately move up to challenge Devin Haney for that WBO belt if he so chooses and if his promoter is willing to do that. So that is what I think that there's a really good chance of happening. Now, also, the other thing that could take place, and a lot of people will say this, in the comment section, that, Terence Crawford says that he wants to move up to 154 pounds and fight Jermell Charlo, which he has the same mechanism available for him to do because he's the WBO super champ, right? So he can move up and immediately ask for the fight with Jermell Charlo. However, Jermell Charlo right now is got two mandatories in front of him. One is the WBO mandatory, which he's fighting next, Tim Tszyu, and I do believe that is going to be in January. So that means he's not going to fight him anytime before January, or even in January, probably not anytime before June. And I do believe it's the IBF that has to say, it's either IBF or the WBC that has the other mandatory for him, a guy with an Eastern European name that is due. That will probably become due. And so more than likely, Jermell Charlo is not going to, Terence Crawford won't get that fight with Jermell Charlo for all of next year. Doesn't look like it, which would put him out until 2024, right? So that would have put him out pretty much, all of 2022 if he doesn't fight, because he has not fought yet, right? Last time he fought was 2021. If he does not fight Errol Spence Jr. this year and he goes into next year, Jermell Charlo with his mandatories, he may have to sit out 2 years to get a fight with Jermell Charlo, unless they give him for some reason the WBA or the WBC waive that mandatory that it has, which I don't see happening. Could, but if it's the IBF, you can forget about it, right? Because you can just forget about it. They enforce their mandatories. Those guys are willing to strip Canelo, so that they're gonna they wouldn't mind. They wouldn't have a problem stripping Jermell if Jermell didn't do it. So that just makes that fight for Terence Crawford and Josh Taylor look all the more realistic. Also, it would probably be a big payday for him because Bob Arum is gonna have to pay top dollar for that fight. Otherwise, Terence Crawford just sit and let Josh Taylor try to fight the other WBO guys. And who that WBO guy, the other guy in the top three of the WBO is either going to be Virgil Ortiz, which could happen, or it would be Jaron Ennis. Now, the Virgil Ortiz versus Josh Taylor fight, I don't think that Oscar De La Hoya would make that fight. I don't think. Maybe he would, and if he did, hats go off to him. But that is no easy fight, and definitely no guaranteed win for Josh Taylor, and not a very big fight either. And Jaron Ennis is a dang sure loss for Josh Taylor, and you pretty much wrapping it up with Josh Taylor, right? It's not going to happen. He's going to wind up, who knows what he'll have out of Josh Taylor after that. But on the other side of it, man, who knows if Bob Arum is really all that interested in Josh Taylor moving forward, because of, he kind of lost a lot of luster with that Jack Cottrell fight, and on top of it, he had that issue with the Daniel Kinahan stuff. But anyway, it's all going to be fun, be interesting to see how this stuff turns out next year. All kind of hinging on whether or not Errol and Terence fight and get that fight out of the way or not. But anyway, it is what it is. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Deuce.